channel. You're with Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. You've probably come out of a relationship. You've tried everything you can reasonably without going overboard to make things work. You've communicated. You've been tolerant. You've tried. You've tested. You've given in. You've made way. You've accommodated. And there is still this problem. Now, I know many of you have had problems with your relatives towards the one that you love, and possibly in the case of their relatives towards you. This all comes down to a loss of boundaries or no understanding of boundaries, and there is a place for this. We live in a weakened society today where people don't want to commit to anything, and the richness and the benefits and the health and the happiness that comes from being committed and protecting the relationship and the commitment is unique, exclusive. There's no other way you can find it. Promiscuity is running wild today. People are just abusing themselves and neglecting themselves, and promiscuity is not just with sex. It's got to do with drugs, alcohol, and all the other stuff that comes with it. And promiscuity mixed with drugs and alcohol is just destruction anyway. And there is a world for that, but I suggest and recommend that you don't go into that world. I've known too many people that have died before their time, been harmed, have mental health issues, serious mental health issues. Their children haven't worked out the way they should have. A lot of the children take on the habits of their parents, and this gives the parents a sense of shame and failure. And the children build resentment towards their parents via revelation as they get out into the world and see that it's really not the way to go. They turn around and get resentment towards their parents and bitterness and hatred, and this causes a different sort of separation. This causes the child to abandon the parent in some cases, but it's usually short-lived, and time has a way of fixing things. But the problem with it all is for you. Now, you have to stop and be honest. You have to stop and be honest with yourself. I always say, rule number one, what contribution did you make to the disintegration of the relationship? Some people have only got a short use-by date, no matter how good you are or how bad you are. Their characteristic capability is limited in a relationship, and you have to be aware of this, and you cannot be blinded at the start of the relationship. I've sat and watched limerence videos with new girlfriends, the honeymoon stage videos, to try and get some stability and serenity out of the relationship. But what I've found is 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be found. And if you do find it, thank God for it, because the richness and the power, the soul and spiritual sustenance that comes from a healthy committed relationship where you just know everything's going to be all right. You're not worried about the person running off or caving in or being influenced by family members that they love, and all this sort of stuff, even if it's dysfunctional. You see, if you haven't got boundaries set up or if they haven't got boundaries set up in their family before you come along, right, they're not going to have boundaries set up after you come along. And you need to measure all this. This is what I've learned. You need to look, if you get to the point where you go to their house, you need to look at the relationship going on between the parents and the children, because worst case scenario is the parents will be the children and the children will be the parents. And don't underestimate me saying this. And you won't spot this at first. You won't realize this at the start, but it will manifest. You see, even with the relatives, when you first come along, they might be glad just to see somebody new after the performance of the last person, and they'll all welcome you in. That's how it always goes, even with the relatives. Even with the relatives of the person that you're with. And then it's going to come down to the structure, the method or way in which they deal with things that are conflictive for them through being with you. Now, there'll either be the time that will say something to you and be able to work it through, or there'll be the time where they'll bung on the you get too upset when I say anything, and 9 times out of 10 that's not true, it's just their insecurity. Or there'll be the time that doesn't say anything, and that's going to end in a disaster anyway. You have to be able to constructively read the words and the silence at the same time. And sometimes it's going to be hard. And because you don't know what's happened to these people before you've come along. They could have had terrible trauma. They could have been treated just out and out wrong. A lot of these people too, let me say, and for you listening, you might want to just pay attention here. A lot of these people end up with angry people walking out on them because they're not fixing anything. And this is why I always come back to, examine yourself. Start by making sure, whether you've got a coach or a therapist or whatever the case is, that you're navigating yourself fairly in the relationship. Okay, because we live in an age of interferers and accusers and deceivers and liars, and these people seem to be able to parasite into the relationship, and the next thing, you're not dating one person, you're dating 3 or 4, one that is visible and the other 1, 2, 3, 4, however many they are, invisible, influencing your relationship. And what that does is demasculinize you or defeminize her, because it's an undermining, it's an infiltration, it's parasitical to the relationship, it's negative, it's going to bring harm to the relationship. And this will come down to how much you value the relationship. If your partner's saying to you, please fix this problem, and they get to the point where their mind is hurting, where they've basically given in, there's no one home, they're emotionally out but just physically in, a lot of the problem can come from the other side, where the problem's coming from, and then you become the problem because you need this person to set up some boundaries. And so they, one way or another, they begin to exit the relationship themselves because it's all too much. Too often these days we're contending not just with the relationship but everybody else around it. If you come into a relationship and you find the person hasn't got boundaries, I would suggest that you seriously think about leaving it where it is. It's like when you get with someone and they're a phone head. They're one of these phone heads with tech neck, and they're addicted to their phone. That's really destructive. It's really immature. It's really, it's intrusive and divisive, and you just don't know what's going on with them. I don't need all that. If people want to play with their phones, and go and be with your phone, you don't need to be with me. And I don't think they mind that, to be honest. We're not as important as we think we are. But what a lot of people forget is the richness of a trustworthy relationship. Some people like chaos, and that works for them. But, finding peace, serenity, having a good love life, a good communication, emotional, spiritual life, where you give, take, care, and share, that's what it's all about. That's where the power is. That's what the meaning of it all is. Just going to work and coming home to drink, or coming home to drugs, and somebody's just there. No, that's not going to work. And if you're with somebody and you see them fading, don't kid yourself. They're not going to make the effort. They're going to be lazy. I know this sounds negative, but you've got to accept it and just go, hang on a sec. This person probably isn't the right one for me, because you've got limited time. Okay, once you hit 40, 50, 60, you haven't got time to be mucking around with people that just haven't developed themselves. You need to have your discernment and awareness and fairness working 100%, or you're going to waste time. I've had to contend with people's children. I'm not in the relationship with people's bloody children. I got 5 children on my own. They've never caused a problem for anybody. But some of these people and their children, viewers, be you a female or a male, you have no idea of the monsters and the bitches and the bastards that are out there that have come from these people. I'm sorry, I know that's in your face, but the dark triad characteristics that are in stealth and covert, working through people in a serial passive-aggressive way, is really bringing harm, not only to them, but to the people that are affected by it. So I know this sounds all pessimistic and everything, but people are just la-di-daring around into people's lives, and they're not going to build anything. It's all deceptive. And by the time they've worn you out, if they decide they're going to, it's all too late. They've worn you out. And this is what they do. They wait till you're worn out, and then they pop up, pissed or stoned or whatever, and pretend that they're going to get it right. It's bull crap. It's bullshit. Past behaviour predicts future behaviour, full stop. Sometimes you've just got to let that person go, walk away, cut your losses, and get yourself back and find somebody with the same kind of stability and values. And that's all there is to it. I mean, otherwise your life's going down the drain. And if you want your life to go down the drain, you can do that. But without me, thank you very much. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.